crisis in debt, we have to tear apart the social fabric of this country. We do not. Believe me, we do not. I want to thank you very much for coming out on a dreadful night. And I want to thank each of our panelists for being here, and I'm going to introduce them shortly. But take heart, even though there are not many of us in the room tonight, that we have already, using this panel as an occasion, reached thousands of people with the message that you're going to hear tonight personally. There was a fine story in the Mail Tribune this morning. It's on page 3 and carried over. A number of us here tonight will quote it. Got a message out, though. I have to say that I thought that the headline was a crashing bore. Having spent a little time trying to get a catchy title for the program, Shredding the Safety Net, whoever wrote the headline seemed to be in dull land. In addition, Dee Anne Everson, who is in the striped blouse there, Dee Anne is the CEO and Executive Director of United Way Jackson County, and I were on for a half an hour on Jefferson Exchange this morning, and I thought that between us we did get very clearly out the message that we wanted people to hear, and that, as you probably know, goes to Northern California and east of the Cascades, as well as the Valley, and up into the Umpqua Basin. And lastly, Jackie said that Channel 5 caught up with you. You can just tell people.
Dee Anne told them where I was. I was trying to hide.
It should be all right.
Yes, Dee Anne informed me. I was trying to hide in her office, and she told them where I was, and they came right over. It worked nicely.
Well, since I've used names already, let me finish introducing the panel. Jackie Schad is Executive Director of Access. Ginger Hahn is Executive Director of Community Works. And Rita Sullivan is Executive Director of OnTrack. And among them, there is an amazing amount of wonderful work being done in this valley to meet the needs of people, and they're not just, a marginalized population. I mean, the people who have trouble with substance abuse problems, which OnTrack deals with, are numerous. United Way has, well, you're going to hear about this wonderful work. The point is that we could not have a better group of people to talk tonight about human needs in this valley, how they have been met, and why it's getting increasingly difficult to meet them. I don't think it is a surprise that all the people at the table and most of the people in the pews here are women. And it's no more surprising that the overwhelming majority of the people who are trying to make it impossible to meet human needs in this country are men. And I do not think it is a useless stereotype to say that men far more than women seem to be into power, and women far more than men seem to be into nurture. I'll say a couple more things and start with a very small story that I think is incisive and humorous. A CEO of a Wall Street bank, a Tea Partier, and a union member were sitting around the table, and a platter with 12 cookies was served. The CEO took 11 of the cookies, turned to the tea party and says, "Watch out for that union man, he's after your cookies." What we're facing in this country is the rapidly growing accumulation of wealth and political power in fewer and fewer hands. And those people would be glad for us to fight over the little that they leave for the rest of us. And we must not fall into that trap. We cannot allow them to stop putting the ingredients into the pie, shrinking the pie and saying, okay, fight over what's left. And that means that we are in a struggle. And it is a struggle for the very soul and future of this country. What is driving deficits and debts, and this is very clear since 1981, is the decreasing amount of the burden of public responsibility imposed on the very wealthy and the corporations that they control. Secondarily, in terms of spending, it is a military budget that only went down slightly under Clinton, and ever since Reagan, with that exception, goes up and up and up, and Barack Obama was no exception to that rule. And that's part of the power of the wealthy, too, because these wars of choice are fought for the advantage of the wealthy, not for the safety of the Americans. That said, what we need perhaps to tell people is that these discussions about tax policy and spending allocations are not abstractions. Quit thinking of them as Republicans or Democrats or conservatives or liberals, and understand that it is about our children, their nutrition, their education, their care, their job prospects, their chances of going to college. It is about our families, our neighbors, our communities. It is not abstract, and that's what we're going to talk about today. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to the panel, and I think we agreed that Dee Anne, who is in a somewhat unique position because she doesn't run a single agency but interacts with, what, you fund 51 different agencies as well as programs? So why don't you start us off, Dee Anne?